Welcome to Military Faith and Spiritual Resilience. This is Elizabeth Fulgaro. With me today is Renee Hamilton-McNealy, soldier and artist. Renee, thank you for being willing to share more. We've been talking a lot about leadership, and in the previous episode, you were speaking about the importance of presence, that you can't be everywhere at one time. And that's a fact. But that when you're present, you need to be present. And I'm wondering, and that was in your Army role, would you be willing to share a little bit about where else you see that it's important to be present in life?
Ooh, yes, present with self and family. Sometimes when you're career-driven, you take pride in the career, the work, the position, then it's easy to struggle with presence at home because it's what else do you have to do for work? But to view life in leadership in a way as far as it's a lifestyle, then you realize the other parts of your life really could affect your well-being. So I see presence at home. This means even though it could be difficult, because especially, I'm a leader in Army Reserve, and there have been times, positions and ranks ago where I'll have a full-time job, I'll have a call in the evening, I'm handling stuff, I'm doing schoolwork. Sometimes a dinner table became a desk, and you can really take time away from loved ones. It requires a joint effort for family members to truly know who you are, what you do, your role and responsibility. And so you can identify what does presence look like in our home while you're serving in this leadership capacity. Because if a leader is charged with the responsibility for an organization and other people, which includes their lives and well-being, what about their own? So presence can be, okay, on Thursdays we have taco night or nachos night, and we're going to be there on Thursday. And there's flexibility if we can. Or, hey, I have a hard day. I really want to talk about this. It's not that you're bringing work home. It's you're going to a trusted source who knows you so that you can unwind, release, and feel better. I think that there has to be harmony within the relationships that we have in order for us to be present wherever we are to be. Family cannot be an afterthought. Sometimes there's one in a lifetime experiences, a child is being born, someone is graduating, there's a funeral, a soccer game. Those things matter. Let the family know they're important. And organizations can develop cultures, which I'm happy to see happening more and more in the military now, where the family is a priority. They're the support. They are important people as well. Building relationships between the family and the organization is really awesome too, versus it being separate spaces. So presence within family relationships, which may not always be the family you're born with. It could be your curated family, your support group. And then I say presence within yourself and your spiritual walk, if you do have one, because in that way you can remain grounded. You don't lose sight of who you are through habits and showing up for everyone else. You can feel isolated and alone. And you can think, oh, hey, what about me? But if waking up in Tai Chi in a park or a 5-mile run or your favorite cereal or time with your dogs or cats pours into you, beautiful. You've been present with self. You've been present with God if you choose to believe or whatever that belief is, but also with family. I think sometimes it's easy for leaders to busy themselves out of their healthy relationships. And then what will you have left when that's all gone? Yeah, that also ties into preparing for leadership, realizing that people have families, communicating the importance and value of the family, and just being creative to make sure people can be present. And again, present, it does not always mean attend an event or a game. It's when you're home, you remember what they're saying. There's eye contact. Your boots are by the door. Maybe there's a favorite movie you want to watch together. There's enough time in the day to be creative. And again, flexibility has to be there. Flexibility and understanding and communication has to be there.
You mentioned the importance of the harmony in the relationships. Absolutely. You don't have control over all of that because it's multi-sided, right? How can the soldier in their homes, when they're home, what can they do to foster towards harmony on their end?
Oh, I like that. It made me think about an exercise we just did at Pre-Command course, actually.
Okay.
And the name of it escapes me in this moment, but it was more creating a chart of things that you value or that are important to you individually and collectively and for your unit. So now if I was to say, okay, I have annual training for these 2 weeks in July. And then in October, we're going to celebrate birthday and anniversaries. And your graduation for your master's is in March. Okay, so we have these important dates. You work collectively as a team. It's not because, hey, let's say one is military and the other one is not. Your job, your life is more important. You could be a stay-at-home partner or whatnot. Everyone is equally important, regardless who pay bills. I know everybody have different views on that. But when you allow the people in your household to realize the equal importance and value, and then you put, it's not just, hey, we're going to the field for a month in May. I'm not going to be able to make it. This is what I have to do. True. But how is that communicated? Is it communicated in love? Is it communicated maybe after prayer? Are there plans that happen before or after? There really is room to quote unquote have it all, balance career, family, your individual goals. Most often people just need the resources to work through, to get it on paper and stick to it, or exercise flexibility with it. Knowing what's important to each person individually, not prioritizing self over anything else, but also understanding the military overall is its own unique element. You know, I've known of a friend who her husband was gone for 2 weeks for work and she was saddened. And someone else said, well, at least they're not gone for a year on a deployment. And I told her, don't undermine how you feel. 2 weeks is a long time. It's different for you all. And just because many are gone for a year and it's normalized doesn't mean that it's comfortable. So present is understanding how the dynamics of family and relationships can change as our careers and positions change, and just checking back in. And if the relationship is not mature or connected enough to have the conversation amongst one another, I mean, there's friends that they're trusted, there's the marital counseling and therapy, and nothing has to be wrong or at the brink of divorce to have that support. It can be, hey, I had this new position. I'm really struggling with my time management. There's career coaching. There's a lot of things that are out there. People, to include leaders, just have to be comfortable raising their hand and say, hey, I need some help with this.
Ooh,
yeah,
that sounds important.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that, about the willingness to be vulnerable, to say I need help, and maybe self-care.
Yeah, there's sometimes people know that, but they're afraid of perception. And that's valid, because if you say, hey, I need help, maybe the culture of your organization or society or people in your network and circle can feel like, oh, you don't have what it takes, you're failing. It's a mental and cultural shift to be able to say this is a sign of strength. And who has the power to push those messages? Leaders do. So it's not saying, hey, you're weak and you don't have it. It's more of, you may be in a position where you need assistance. That is a sign of strength to identify that versus fall by the wayside trying to figure it out. And maybe those aren't the same exact words someone say. Maybe they say, hey, I've been really trying to work on this thing. I'm kind of struggling managing a date night at home, and I'm struggling, taking care of after hour actions and stuff with my unit. And I'm struggling with my full-time job in school. Okay. So that sounds like maybe there's time for our resilience training we have, putting it into perspective and goal setting. And do you have time on your agenda or your schedule where it's, let me figure this out? Is there only time to do run, have a meeting, cook dinner. Where is the white space needed to just reflect and have a conversation? There we go. Again, people got to have conversations with self and with others. By me doing so with a mentor before CSM, I was able to say, hey, I'm going to be running some small businesses. I'm going to be serving. Marriage is awesome. I'm loving where things are. I want to keep all this stuff good. And he had to remind me, you've been doing it for quite some time. It's just different now. So mentorship and openness has to happen at each and every level. And as we shift and change, it may not be an annual thing or here and there. It has to be ongoing.
What I think is real interesting is that if we think about it, mentorship is part of community too, because in order for there to be mentorship, you have to have people who have moved and grown through things, right? Be willing to pause and share and impart.
Yes. Pause, share, and impart. PSE. Impart I, PSI.
Where can people go to try to find mentors?
So even though there are different systems and databases where people can, select mentors or leaders, like we have different career trackers and stuff like that, I think my mentor, we just kind of had this, one of my main automatic connection when we met and just let's do a conversation, some goals. And she said a few words to me and I followed back up with her. I think that people should look within their community, schools, their Army unit, wherever their hobbies are, identify what are the goals you're trying to achieve and who's doing so. They also have to have space to mentor. They have to have space. I've spoke with someone recently who's debated retirement, and I just told her, you need your spark again. You don't remember, you don't know where your spark is. You feel like you've tapped out. You think promotion is the next step. Sometimes you have to just serve differently. And I share different examples in different positions. And I say, you know what? I have the best person for you. I had to pass her out to another mentor because I know what their strength and skill is and the room and space that they had and where they were and their approach. So sometimes people have to just put it out there that, hey, I really need help. There you go again with this. And once you communicate it, sometimes you can really attract the person who is willing and able to provide that support. If it's like business, I've told a friend who's want to start a business, and I was like, I'm working on a lot of that myself, but I have something better for you. Maybe the SBA, they have the free score mentors. So when leaders have to, again, preparing for leadership, resources and relationships. I love that. Resources and relationships. You don't have to burn yourself out by saying, hey, you want to start a business? I have to be the one to provide it. Maybe that's a consultation service from someone else. I can say, because I'm aware, SBA, they have the SCORE mentors. Here's the information. Do you mind following through and let me know when you made contact? Right? And then maybe they're just an accountability thing, or maybe they're following through. So the resources you can pass on, the relationships you can extend or have a meeting or grab tea or coffee for a conversation, and it goes from there. People have to put themselves in the spaces to be lifelong learners. That's where you meet people who want to continue to grow, and they don't hesitate pouring back.
And I'm wondering if the mentorship doesn't always have that name. Because what you mentioned was you had a good conversation with someone. They gave you some information, and it just happened in the conversation, and that you followed up, and that a mentorship type of relationship ensued from that. But I'm wondering if for some people who could be mentored, the idea of saying, hey, will you be my mentor might be a little intimidating.
Yes, I don't think that question works well.
Yeah.
Because it can be perceived as labor or homework. A relationship, a bond or connection has to be established. When I was getting started early on with taking my art serious, and someone said, oh, I would love to, intern with you and mentor. I don't have space. I did not. I'm learning, and so later, it depends on where everyone is in their seasons. And sometimes people want to learn and grow. Maybe it's like, hey, I'd love to grab some coffee and have a conversation. You got to have the conversations.
So without saying, hey, will you be my mentor? Could be just like, hey, can I pick your brain for 10 or 15 minutes?
Now, for military, that works well, not small business.
Yeah.
I'll mentor the heck out of you, be available. Small business consultation. So I've had someone said, hey, you know what, I would like to know how you were able, like someone said to me, you dealt with a lot in your life, but you still push through and with your promotion, you still have a good attitude. I have my personal trainer told me that.
Yeah.
He said, you told me you've been through a lot, but it's not that you're still here serving and doing, you have a good attitude about it. Like, where do you see that at? And we kind of talked about that a lot. He had interest in joining the military. He felt like it was too late. He thought about joining, the police force. And he actually mentioned that he wanted to be a manager at the gym, but he was haven't worked there too long. And I said to him, 3 options: military, police officer, work at the gym. There's probably room to do all. You could be an MP in the Army. You could still work in it. He's like, well, I never thought about that. It made me think about the lesson from my dad, which was parenting, but I took some parenting lessons into mentorship. Long story short, he got the job as a manager. He's looking at having his own facility for training other people. I was able to leverage my experience in the military for how I continue to move and grow despite obstacles. And his obstacle was, I haven't been here too long. It doesn't matter how long you've been somewhere when you're in the right place.
Okay, so that wasn't a formal mentor-mentee relationship. That was a conversation.
Yep. We're missing out. People are missing out because they want to say, this is my mentor, this is my coach, this is my leader. How about this is a human I just met that I found worthy to sit down and talk to? If we pause with our phones for a moment and get rid of the illusion of community and connection through social spaces, even though nothing is wrong with that, and we go for the walks and we have the coffee and we have the conversations, we really can help one another grow.
Ooh, I think we're back to valuing every person and what they bring uniquely to our communities.
We have to do that. When we don't do it, we miss solutions, talents, and skills that we can pour into our own teams and organizations. And people know what they have to bring to the table. But we have to give them room to be served and to serve.
Amen. Let's continue our conversation next time.
For sure.